In this video, you'll learn how to change the shape of any object by using something called edit mode. So we'll talk all about what that is, how to use it, and how you can very quickly deform shapes to make any range of different objects. It's a really common function that you use a lot in Blender. So we'll spend a little while explaining this, and we'll use it to create the icing, which is going to rest on top of the donut. And also, just like before, to keep it interesting, if you make it right to the end of the video, I'll show you how to very quickly create an infinite tower of donuts. So welcome, you've made it to part 3 of this beginner Blender series. So congratulations, first of all. I know this stuff is pretty dense, pretty dry, and it's probably not what you want to do right now. You probably want to go and create some characters or a car or a spaceship. I totally get that. When I started, I was exactly the same. I just wanted to get to the fun stuff. But the trouble is that if you jump immediately to that, you won't really know what to do yet and what to click on and all that stuff. So, so if you can follow this stuff, if you can do this dry, the boring stuff, then you'll know exactly what to do. And you'll be able to apply all these principles and you'll be able to make some really cool looking stuff. So yeah, if you can just stay with me right to the end, I'm sure you'll be way better off for it. So yeah, this is where we ended at the end of the last video. So very quickly, I mentioned subsurf modifier, this thing over here in the last video, which is smoothing out the object. And I mentioned that this value here defines like how smooth that object becomes. But there's really two values here. There's view and there's render. So render is actually the one that counts, because view will only change what is visible to you right now as you're working with it in the viewport, which is this whole thing. So that's really all this is changing. Render is what it will appear in the final render. So basically, generally speaking, most artists keep the view count very low so that Blender is smooth whilst they're working with it, because there's not so much geometry. And then they keep the render amount high so that the final render has a lot of like very smooth, polished sort of look. So, and also these two buttons up here, like if you turn off that one there, that will disable it for the render. So it's like basically setting that value to 0. And if you disable that one, it'll disable it for the viewport, so basically if you have both of those off, it's like having nothing because it's going to do absolutely nothing. But anyway, I'm going to disable it for the viewport just for this next thing, because we're going to talk about edit mode, and it just helps to, yeah, if we don't have that confusing stuff. Okay, so we've talked, everything that we've done so far up to this point has been done in what's called object mode, which allows you to, like, you could select individual objects, move them about. You can move an entire object. You can, do a whole range of different things, but for the individual objects by themselves. But if you want to actually change the shape of an object, then you need to enter into what's called edit mode. So this is object mode. And the way we enter into edit mode is by pressing tab, okay? And that puts us into edit mode. And if you enter out of that, and by hitting tab again, that puts you back into object mode. And if, by the way, if you forget the keyboard shortcut, well, first of all, you could get my PDF, which will give you the printable shortcut you can put on your wall. But also down here in the bottom corner, you can change it to edit mode, just like that, and then switch it back to object mode as well. You've also got other modes here, which we might get to as well, but generally these two are very common. So it's very, common thing in Blender, like, you do some editing, you move it about, do some more editing or whatever, and you're just tapping that tab key to enter in and out of it. So in edit mode, you're only able to work on that specific object. So if I was in edit mode here with my donut and I wanted to select my plane, you can see that I can't do that. Like nothing is actually happening. I can't select it. I would have to exit edit mode, select another object, and then enter into edit mode again. So edit mode is like isolated mode. We're just looking specifically at this object. You can't do anything else with the rest of your scene. So most of the time, if you're working with an scene, you're working with object mode, but then when you want to change the shape of something, you're in edit mode, okay? And I'll just Okay, this is the default value. Okay, we'll talk about that in a second. I've actually recorded this tutorial like 4 times now. Every time I've done it, something's gone wrong. Like Skype ramped my microphone volume up, so it was like really distorted. I didn't even know it did that. Oh, it was so annoying. But anyways, yeah, so some of the values, they changed from the default. Anyways, you don't really care about that. Let's talk about edit mode. So what is it? Now, you look at this, it's sort of what looks like a cage that's appeared over the top of the donut here, right? And if you click on it, you'll see that you can actually, like, it's selecting these little dots. So these dots are what are called vertices. So vertices are the point where they're like tiny, invisible points that are used to make up, the shape of the mesh. So if you have 2 vertices that are connected together, that gap in between it is what's called an edge, okay? And if you have 4 of them that are connected, that makes up what is called a face. So it's sort of like this flat plane object, okay? So this mode that we're in right now, we are selecting the vertices. Now, if we hold down Shift, we can select more than one. Or if we hold down Alt, I can select an entire row of edges. So this is an edge loop. So I can select that edge loop, that edge loop, that edge loop. So I'm doing that by selecting in between these 2 vertices, which is now detecting I want to select the entire edge row. And if I select it in between here, you can see, oops, sorry. We'll get to that mode in a second as well. But you can see it's now creating a loop around the middle of the donut. So you can see you can select, there's different ways of selecting and working with it. So that's vertice mode. You can also, down here in the bottom panel, you've got edge select mode. Okay, so if you change it to that allows you to, you're no longer allowed to click that individual one there. Those are hidden. You're now just working with the edges, okay? Now, if you don't know like why you would use one over the other yet, don't worry. It's really when you need it, you'll know to use it. It's like if you're working on a complex object and like, I can't do this thing, you'd probably switch to edge mode or something like that. Another really common one, I use this more than I use the edge one, is face select mode. And that allows you to select the plane, the face that makes up those things there. And again, holding down Alt, I can select a whole edge around it. Holding down Alt and Shift is what will allow me to do that, yeah. Like that, okay? So you can see there's different ways of selecting. Now, when you've actually selected something, if you push G, it allows you to move it, okay? And all of those keyboard shortcuts that we learned before, rotate, scale, all that stuff, that works in edit mode as well, which is the really cool thing. So I can rotate this, okay? I can scale it. I can move it, okay? And it's really good because you don't have to think about what workspace you're in and I have to enable this tool and then come over here and do this thing. Like, no, you can use the exact same shortcuts that you've learned and that you're using everywhere else. So it's a very nice way of working. Now, let's say you wanted to make like some little bumps across the donut. Like it's looking too smooth right now. I want to make some bumps. Well, if you were to, you're in vertex select mode and you select this one, and then maybe this one, make some little bumps, right? Well, that looks awful, right? Because this doesn't have any relation to the information around it. Like these is just like bumps that are sticking out. It just looks awful. It looks very, very handmade. So what you could do is if you push the O key on your keyboard, that will enter you into proportional editing mode. Now, if you move like this, you could see that you've got this circle that appears around your selection. And if I use the scroll wheel on my mouse, I am now affecting a larger or smaller area of influence as I do that. And this works across, again, all of that stuff. So rotating, I can make some really cool looking shapes like that, Okay, then I can scale. Scaling does the same thing. You can very quickly, just with these tools, you can make some weird, I don't know, this is like an abstract building. It's probably a museum. They always have the weirdest looking buildings. Okay, let's pull that back. Blender didn't used to have an undo function. Like when I started Blender, like I re-downloaded Blender 2.3 or something the other day just to get some screenshots or whatever. And I was trying to use it. There's no undo function. So it's like if you made a mistake, it was like, that's your fault, man. You deal with it. And like Blender users at the time were actually against it. That's the craziest thing. People were like we want an undo function. And they're like, you shouldn't need an undo function. Real artists don't need undo functions. It's the craziest thing. It's like a punishing workflow. Like, yeah, just removes all trust of the program, you know? Anyways, that's another story. So anyway, so if you wanted to make like bumps along your donut, you could just use this proportional fall off, just make some little bumps. Isn't that cool? And there's also different modes of proportional fall off as well. Like by default, it's set to smooth down here, but you could change it to sharp, which will create like peaks like that. Or you could change the like to sphere. Now it creates like these sort of like bubbles. Or there's even like constant. So it's like very, very weird. You can do some fun stuff. And then random, which although it seems like that would be a really bad one, it's actually a good one. And we're actually going to use it on the icing in the next part, I think. But anyways, so yeah, so that's that. Now, so I've spoken about how you can select by holding down Alt and clicking. But there's other ways to select as well. So if you want to select, like, let's say I want to select half of this mesh right now. Well, that would be really annoying to go like, Well, thankfully, if you push B on your keyboard and then left click drag, that's called box select. Okay. And if you, with the same tool, if you push B, but instead of left click select, you middle mouse, scroll wheel, middle mouse, it now deselects that. Okay, so again, left click allows you to select different parts of it, and then middle mouse deselects it. Okay, so that's a really fast way of working. And as well as that, did I mention, I probably didn't even mention deselect. Hopefully you've been able to read that I'm pushing A. Sorry I did not mention that. There's a lot to remember for this tutorial. But A selects all, and then pushing it again deselects everything. Very sorry I didn't mention that, but I'm hoping that you're able to read it there at least. So yeah, so you make a whole mess of everything and then you just push A. Yeah, so you just tap that a lot whilst you're working. You do some stuff and then get out of it, And that by the way, that works in every mode, just like that. Anyways, so okay, so that's box select. Box select. Sorry, I entered that that mode again. Sorry, I shouldn't have done that. We'll get to that in a second. But as well as that, there is C, and C is circle select, and that allows you to like paint over the mesh like this. And if you push middle mouse button again, just like before, you're now deselecting parts of it. So it's like painting, deselect. So it's actually a really, like, it sounds extraneous at first, like, oh my gosh, I have to remember left click, middle mouse. But once you get used to it, it's a really fast way of working. Because like other software, there's a tool for selecting, and there's maybe a tool for deselecting. You got to hold down Shift and click each one, or But Blender's it's like, yeah, it feels a little weird at first. Like got to remember everything, but once you've done it, you can work really, really fast. Like you can select that area, deselect that. It's a fun way of working. Fun, fast, whatever. Okay, now the other thing you might have noticed, like if I'm in this view and I paint this, you could see that if I rotate around, there's parts of this mesh that it hasn't selected, okay? So you've got this ring here and this part over here. And the reason for that is that from this view, it can't see those vertices over there. So these are solid faces and you can't actually select them. So there are two ways of getting to that. One, actually, let's just turn this off just so we're not in proportional fall off. If you click down here to change it from limit selection to visible, if you click that, it's kind of like an X-ray, like you're able to see through the mesh. And now when I paint, I'm selecting everything on both sides of the mesh there. Okay, so you can see it doesn't matter about where the faces are or if you're looking through it or whatever. So that little box there allows you to select through it. But as well as that, there is what I've been pushing accidentally without telling you. This mode that we're in right now is called solid view mode. But if you change it from solid view mode to wireframe mode, it removes all the faces, and it's like you're just seeing the skeleton of the original mesh. So from this view, like I could very quickly like make my selections of what I want to do. You know, so it's very common to enter into this this wireframe mode. So there's a shortcut which is Z, and that enables you to very quickly see through the mesh and see the data without any of the face information in between it. So that's it. So it's tab to enter in and out of object mode. You know, okay, by the way, there's no edit mode for cameras or lights. It's just the actual meshes or a few other objects as well. And then when you're in edit mode, or also, by the way, if you're in object mode, you can push Z and that removes the faces as well. But then, yeah, when you're in here, you can see through it by pushing Z or Z if you're American. Let me get another drink here. Oh, that is bitter. Oh, Assam Bold. I guess, you know, it's not false advertising. By golly, I think I left a tea bag in there for like 10 minutes. It's probably why. Holy moly. Oh, that is astringent. Anyways, so this is how you work in edit mode. I hope I'm not dwelling on this too long. Let's talk about what we came here to do, which was to make some icing for the top of our donut, okay? Now, there's a number of ways that you could do this. You could make it, you know, you could start with a completely separate object, like, you know, don't follow this, I'm just going to show you as an example. Like, you could start with a cube, you know, which is crazy, go into edit mode, and then, you know, I haven't showed you this yet, but this is called extruding, which is like you extrude part of the mesh. Like, you could do this, and then, like, you know, add a subsurf and like it looks kind of like icing, but that would be a really bad way of working because you can see like it doesn't match the donut very well. And so really like it's a way that you'll start to think like when you're making stuff, like if you've got two objects that are going to be interacting together, which in the case of like you've got a donut, right? Like that. And then you got icing. Well, the icing is going to be matching the exact shape of the donut, almost exactly, right? So you should be able to steal the data, take some data from the object that you want to match to create the other object. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the top half of this donut here, we're going to duplicate it, make it its own separate object, and then we're going to make it look like icing. Hopefully within the next 5 minutes. Let's do everything at the last minute. So there's a number of ways you could do it. Like for one, you could hold down Alt-Shift and then just select these edges like this. Okay, but that involves a lot of clicking, okay? What I would suggest, which is a quicker way of working, is if you're just in front view mode like this, if you go and enter into wireframe mode by hitting Z, then if you push B, drag the box tool over the top, and you've now selected the top half of that mesh there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate it. And the way you do that in Blender, this works for duplicating objects as well as in edit mode, Shift D. Shift D. Now when we drag it out, you can see we have got the original object there. And if you want to keep it in its original place, if you hit Escape, now it's it snapped it to that donut there, back to its original position. Now, if you were to leave this here, this would actually be one of the worst things you could do, because what you've got, if I exit out of this, don't do this, by the way, but if I did this, what you've actually got is you've got vertices on top of vertices. You've actually got duplicates. And this is really bad because you've got a face now on top of another face. When it comes to rendering, it doesn't know which face to render. So you'll get this flickering thing that happens in the render. And that's the absolute worst thing that can happen. You never want that to happen, okay? Now, if you were in this, like say you hit Escape and now you've lost it, okay? Now when you click here, like which one are you selecting? Which part of the mesh are you actually selecting here? It's very hard to tell. So there's two things you could do. One, you could, try and undo it, go back to where you were and get the original thing. Or you could, if you push L, what that'll do is it'll select any mesh which is linked to it. So in this case, we've selected the donut. So now we're able to extract the other one on top of it. But what I'm hoping to do instead though, let's see, if I select that one, Control L, there we go. Now I've selected just that one there. Okay, so this is kind of advanced stuff really. I didn't really expect to get to this, but I know that, you know, if we repeated that again, like if we hit like this, then we hit escape, some people might accidentally click something else and then they're stuck. It's like, what am I supposed to do now? How do I get that back again? Because you don't know now what you're actually selecting. So you could select, you know, one thing here, hit Control L. You've now got that one there, which, you know, in this case, you could maybe click that. Actually, I wouldn't know. Hang on. Or you could select like one of those, then hit Control L, and now I've got that one there again. Okay? So that's what you would do. All right. By the way, if you ever found in your final render, just as another side note, just to take up even more of your time, if it was flickering in your render and for whatever reason you don't know why that is, if you hit remove doubles, Blender will actually perform an action where it analyzes the mesh, like I'll just do it now, and it removes duplicates. So if you've got vertices on top of vertices, it'll remove it for you. But yeah, that's like as a last resort, I guess. Okay, anyway, sorry, let's get on with it. So we've got the top of our little donut here. Okay, so we've got the top of this donut. Now I want to make this its own separate object. We could keep it as its own object here, but it's very hard, and as I mentioned, it's very hard to select one or the other. So I want to make it its own object. The way you do that in Blender is by pushing P. And this will bring up separate by what? And the most common one you always use is by selection. So it's taken that selection, and if I exit out of object mode, now if I click here, you can see that it's now its own separate object. So we now no longer have that problem of like, which half of the donut am I selecting? Because now they're their own separate object. Okay, now we've made them their own separate objects, but there is still a conflict. And if we were to render this right now, we would have that problem I mentioned where faces are hitting on other faces. So you never want to have the exact same mesh or the same vertices, or it's mostly just the same face in the exact same position like what we've got right now. Because it's a physical impossibility in the real world. Two things can't exist in the same space. So the digital program doesn't know how to deal with this. So you want to fix this. So in our case, we want to take this from being, if we look at it from this side, like you can see it's hollow underneath there, right? So you want to take it from that space, and you want to make it an actual thick object. So we want to give this some thickness. A couple of ways you could do that still. One is if you went into edit mode, you could extrude. Now, don't worry about this. We're going to get to this later on, and this isn't the method we're going to use for this. But if I hit E, I can extrude this, and then I would maybe hit S, scale it out a little bit or something. Okay, like that is now, it's given it some thickness, got some weirdness going on in there, but it's done the desired effect. But you can see if I go into edit mode now, I've now got a duplicate. I've got vertices underneath it, and I got vertices over here. And if I later on realize like, oh, that thickness is too much on this donut here, that thickness is too much, I would have to individually go here and like select just this part, not the rest of the mesh. And it would be very, very annoying. So as I mentioned before about keeping a destructive or non-destructive workflow, like when you do stuff in editing, stuff like that, you don't have a lot of control over it later on. So whenever possible, you want to try and use a modifier. And it just so happens that we have one in the modifier stacker, and it is called the solidify modifier down here. So if you click that, you won't have noticed much has changed because it has probably, yep. So if you go in wireframe mode, you'll see that there's actually like, this is before and then this is after. So it's created a thickness to it. It's done what I just did before. It's extruded it, but you now have control over it. You can change this thickness here. Now it's actually placed it on the wrong side, so we can't see it. So if we change this offset to be all the way to 1, now it's pushing it out rather than sucking it in. So now increase this thickness. We can change how thick we want that icing to be. Okay, really thick dollop, like really caked on there. Probably a donut people pay a lot of money for. I imagine that'd be like a trend. Like I could see that as like a trend in New York or something. I don't know why I think New York, but like I imagine that'd be it. Like you could call it like caked donuts. Donuts that are like caked in icing. with like a kilo of icing on top of your donut or something. I could see that becoming a trend. Anyway, so you could have like really, really super thick, or you can change it here. So later on, when you're working in your scene, you go like, oh, I don't like the thickness of that icing. Just change it. Super easy because you've got this modifier here. Now, the other thing to note, if I turn on the Subsurf tool again, the modifier here, so everything looks a little bit smoother, you can change the order of your modifiers. So what it does is it reads it from top to bottom. Okay, so where it is right now, it's starting with the Subsurf and then it's adding the Solidify on top of it. So we're starting with the smoothed mesh and then it's doing the Solidify after that and pushing it out. But if I push this up arrow, it's now pushed that Solidify and Modify on top of the Subsurf, which means that now the edge of this icing has become smoother because it's performed the smoothing action after the Solidify action, if that makes sense. So now when I turn this up, you can see we've got like this smoothed edge to it, okay? Which, you know, it looks a little weird underneath there. Let's go into perspective mode. Yeah, you got a bit of a gap there, but, you know, from this angle, you can't really see it. So, you know, it's really up to you. So this, I'm really just saying this to demonstrate that there's an order to the Subsurf modifiers. Okay, so it reads it again, top to bottom. Oh my goodness, what a long video. Must be sick of it. All right, let's do something fun, which is what I mentioned at the start of the video, which is make a tower of donuts. And this is to demonstrate another really common modifier in Blender, which we won't really have a use for in this tutorial, but it's called the array modifier. So if with this donut here, the bottom one selected, if I go add modifier and I select array, you can see that it's created another donut next to it. And if I increase this count, you can see we've got lots and lots of donuts. And it's the position that it's placing this donut is it's stipulated. I sound like a lawyer. Stipulated in the relative offset settings right here. So this is the X value. So if I set the Y value to 1, now it's like it's gone diagonal because it's both X and it is also Y. I can make them all go that way by just making that. Or if I set them both to 0 and then this one to 1, this is the Z axis. So it's now placing them directly on top of each other. And if I now increase this count, this is a situation where you want to turn off the Subsurf because otherwise it'll go really slow in your viewport. But now if I drag this up, I have an infinite tower as big as your computer can actually handle. Okay, so now the array modifier, you can actually do some really cool stuff with it. Like it's used a lot like you could actually make another array after it and go like, now I'm going to make 2 towers and I'm going to space them like that. I'll make 3 towers of donuts. And you can make array after array of doing all this weird stuff. And you'll also, and you know, this is overkill, which is why I won't really explain, you know, what's going on here. But if I was to down here, if I made a empty, which is just an object which you can use to like move around, doesn't show up in your render or whatever. And then here, if I set, instead of relative offset, if I set the object offset to be the empty, now this empty defines where those donuts go. So, and check this out. If I rotate it, oh, what is going on? So you can make some really cool, cool looking shapes. This looks like a daydream. You can imagine this looks like something from like a Simpsons cartoon. Like Homer would be flying through here, and it'd be like, and he'd be trying to eat them. Yeah. Anyways, so that is that's how to make a little tower with your donuts there. So that was just a little bit of random fun, just for the ending there. All right, thank you for making it through to the end of this very long video. Apologies it's so long, but we did cover a lot, as I'm sure you would agree. So, in the next part, we're going to make this icing look a little bit more like icing and less like a yarmulke. So we'll make it look more like icing. So go ahead and join me in the next part. And if you like this video, go ahead and give me a like. That really helps my ranking in YouTube. and helps me to make more tutorials as well. So that's it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next part.